I teamed up for Brackeys 2023.2 GameJam. The theme of this jam was diving deeper, and it's actually one of the themes I voted for. I didn't have much time during the GameJam, and as usual, when the theme was announced, I wasn't home. Luckily, I wasn't alone for this jam. I had another team member, apart from Billy, who was funky. He has basically no experience with making games, but he's a great programmer. He wrote at least 90% of the code and was a great help. When I came home, we both already had a few ideas what we could do. Wrote them down, expanded them, did some research. Yes, this definitely didn't distract me, and settled on a pretty simple idea. Our concept was the player should control a little submarine and try to dive as deep as possible. While diving deeper, you need to gather resources by mining ores to upgrade your submarine. You need to upgrade the submarine to reach deeper and uncover the secrets of the ocean. Or at least that's what our idea was. We wrote a simple to-do list, mostly following the Moscow principle, and were ready to start. He started working on the player movement, while I tried my best to give the game good looks. I wanted to make a 3D low-poly game similar to a game I developed a while ago following a Unity tutorial. I began by modeling simple low-poly 3D objects for seaplants and an animated water creature. After losing about an hour trying to pull and push changes from Git, we both had the player movement and the models halfway done. He decided the submarine should move by always looking at the cursor and moving forward if the mouse button is pressed. I proceeded to create additional 3D objects for the player, since I want the submarine to have visual upgrades whenever it gains another upgrade. After a simple sketch, the process was pretty straightforward. To further improve the visuals of the seagrass, I designed a shader to simulate ocean currents. Slowly, I began to understand what I am doing as I followed a tutorial about this. That was everything for day 1. On day 2, the player movement was already done, as well as the basic visuals of the player, and that was great progress. Funky did a really good job implementing the movement, but why not try it out yourself on badpaddy.itch.io/devsearcher. On day 2, I wanted to implement the basic visuals for the environment, allowing me to build the main environment on day 3. I created a menu scene and started by blocking off the edges of the camera. Then I added a cube and created a wave shader for it, or at least I tried to. The shader worked alright for a sphere, but didn't work with a cube I was using in the scene. I found out it's because of the amount of vertices of the object. I imported the subdivided plane from Blender, and the shader was kind of working. With a little bit of fine-tuning, I had a water surface I was happy with. After that, I spent a lot of time fine-tuning post-processing until I got a good underwater feeling. I added the plants I'd modeled earlier, applied different materials to the rocks and the ocean floor, added blue fog in the background, and improved the visuals with more post-processing work until I had a beautiful little ocean area. After adding some more details, I tried to commit the changes, but that resulted in merge conflicts, which lost me basically the last hour of progress. But that will definitely not happen again, right? After I redid all the work, I finished converting the scene to a simple menu, built a test version, and with that, the second day was over. Before beginning to build the level, I gave the player collisions and tested how long the submarine needs to dive 100 units deep. This gave me a general idea how deep the level should be, but it changed as we adjusted the player speed later. Since my plan was to only have one level, the process of creating it was quite straightforward and consisted of duplicating the wall cubes a few times. I also wrote a script to adjust the post-exposure parameter to make the scene darker the deeper you dive. I finalized the level by placing an adequate amount of seagrass and additional cubes to block the camera vision outside of the level. If there was more time or if I was in need of more levels, I would have written a script to procedurally generate the level and maybe have a lot more variety. This was a very productive day, so I got a few more features done. I implemented most of the sounds. Sadly, these clips are without sound, so you have to wait a little longer. We didn't want the player to have to manually dive up. To bring the player back to the surface, I basically store the positions while the submarine dives down and transition to them in the opposite order. It wasn't perfect, but it was good enough for day 3. With the basic gameplay almost done, I started the 4th day by creating the remaining 3D objects for the player. Following that, I modeled an upgrade station in Blender where you can select the upgrades for the player. I think the concept was quite interesting, but at that point the upgrade station still looked very empty. After a bunch of merge conflicts, trying to solve them manually and only discarding unnecessary files, or at least I thought they were unnecessary, I lost basically 1.5 hours of progress, but was able to remake it in about 50 minutes. That was the point where we learned how important, especially in Unity, it is to only commit the important files and not every change. If someone changed an important script and tried it out in the game scene, it's better to think if you really want to commit the changes in the game scene, since it's difficult to merge or replace them in Unity with Git. The upgrades were done, but there was no way to obtain the resources for the upgrades. To fix that, I implemented an extractor laser which beams at wherever your mouse pointer is. In contrast to the player movement, which is on a 2D space, the extractor can move in 3 directions: left, right, up, down, but it can also reach to the back. With the visuals done, Funky started working on the functionality of the laser. With all the important visuals done and most of the gameplay features done, I started improving minor details. That's basically what I did for the last 2.5 days. Particles and sounds when upgrading the player, screens in the upgrade station to show the effects of each power-up. I animated the text a little. Important UI features were missing: a health display, a depth display, sounds for the laser, and the lights in the upgrading scene. I thought I might not have time the last 2 days, so I have already set up an itch.io page. I realized that in the browser build ambient occlusion wasn't working properly, so we only have the downloadable version, since it just looks terrible without it. Also, while writing the script, I realized that in-game the wrong game name gets displayed. For the last 2 days, we wrote a final to-do list with all the bugs needing to be fixed, the missing features and the details to improve. Our health system wasn't implemented at all, so we had to do that yet. I changed the upgrade station to have a repair ship option and an exit door to return to the menu. I tried to fix ambient occlusion in the browser build without success, sadly. I also added a custom cursor. On the last day, 3 hours were remaining. There was one last important feature missing. Until this point, there was nothing when the player reached the bottom. There was not much time left, so I used a secret technique to finish the game: particles. I reused a particle prefab from another project and designed an additional one, resulting in the particles for a giant explosion when the player mines the final ore. With that done, we uploaded and submitted the project. In the last 50 minutes we uploaded at least 5 builds, all containing minor fixes until the submission time was over. With that, the game was officially done. I think it turned out alright. Funky was a great help. I wouldn't have been able to make such a game in such a short time. Also, this was his first jam and basically his first game he ever made in Unity, and it's actually amazing how well it turned out. It was really fun working on this jam, working together. It was an interesting experience to not be the main programmer and just focus on visuals and audio. I want to do that again sometime for sure, but maybe in shorter jams. During these 7 days, I invested less time than during this year's GMTK GameJam, which only lasted 2 days, so I think it's better to be in shorter jams and work more. Remember, you can play the game on badpaddy.itch.io/depthsearcher. Let me know how you like the game. Also, this video was a little more focused on the visuals, since I mainly did visuals. Let me know how you like that as well. See you next time. Also, there is a cheat code in the menu. If you press return, then write need for cheat and press return again, cheats are enabled. Use SO in the game scene and M in the upgrade scene. Have fun.